Good morning, afternoon, evening or night, whenever you're watching this, welcome. I have filmed on this river before, but not this far upstream, and today I'm on the hunt for the source of all the little pieces of broken pottery and glass at the downstream end, which I think is almost certainly an old dump site that's being dug out by bottle diggers. And I guess I'm hoping to find things that I will find appealing, that the bottle diggers either didn't see or didn't care about. I'll also be keeping a lookout for anything historically interesting or upcyclable, recyclable, or anything that just shouldn't be in the river. And the first find is a fairly modern plumbing fixture. There's a fair chunk of brass there, albeit attached to a big chunk of iron. I shall take it and try to separate the two. That looks vaguely interesting. Ah, just a stone. And some ridged pottery, piece of a marmalade jar. That's the sort of age that most of the things in this river are, mid-19th to mid-20th century, though there are Neolithic sites on the hills and a rich, infamous history of early industry and crime in this little valley. Bit of a teacup. I like the pattern, but not really an appealing colour. And the plastic is never appealing. I will carry out what I can get out, though. Oh wow, handmade square copper nail, only the second one I've ever found, and it could potentially be 18th century and a small part of the horrible history of this place. This is where I got down to the river, a small bridge to an old factory, which quite possibly stands in the spot of an older mill. It's hardly noticeable from above, but modestly beautiful from below. And it's also got a little low pressure point, which might have caught a few bits of interest. Let's see. Bits of an old chimney. There's some vintage glass, sherds of pottery. None of it's on my shopping list today. The blue and white would have been if it wasn't quite so curved. I think it could be a good spot to dig a little with a sieve and see if there's any metal sunken down below the sandy surface. Coins perhaps. I saw Aquachicker's recent video on a river in Glasgow, Scotland, and he had a scrape down with a trowel in the sort of place that I see a lot of, and sometimes I do find copper and brass on the surface in those little low pressure places. He found some interesting brass bits hiding a few inches down, and brass is always a welcome find. Stick, exactly the same colour as copper oxide. There's so much pottery here, and I know that hidden amongst the masses of 19th and 20th century pottery there could be a very small amount of some really old pottery, probably looking very drab in comparison to the blue and white, which does somewhat insist that it be found. Not a bad little piece for crafts. First beach of the day, and it does not look like one that's going to have a lot to find on it. The current doesn't currently go near it, and probably doesn't even when the river is in full spate. That said, there might be a few things. I'm hoping for a marble, and needless to say, though I do appear to be saying it, I'm going to walk up and down the length of it, at least up, down, and up again, in the hopes of finding something. I'll certainly show you if I find anything worth showing. I am on the lookout for iron and steel things that I might be able to at least try to restore. I'm hoping for an old axe head, or a sword. I did once find the pommel off a World War II German bayonet, but most of what I find is like this. The water here isn't kind to iron. Another piece of, well, steel this time, and not exciting. I see a brick and a big slab of stone, probably part of a mill building. Some more ironwork. And imprint fossils of whatever was that shape, probably stones actually. I guess not actually a fossil then, though there has been some mineralization. I've seen things like this before, little ceramic discs with a hole in the middle and a bevel on one side. The previous finds did not have remains of iron in the hole, which suggests they were strung onto an iron rod for some reason. I'm still not sure what. And there's another piece of iron. Ah, no ambiguity this time. It's part of an old fence. Such a gently flowing amber stream to wade in, but fierce enough sometimes to rip whole chunks of wall out from where they've been built. Interesting shape. Oh, a piece of a cast iron bath. Quite pretty, but not something I'm considering taking, if for no other reason than it's the home of some caddisfly larvae. They're a good indicator that the stream is in good health. They don't like dirty water. Their cocoons are made of pretty much anything, usually pebbles, tied together with filaments of silk. First thing on this beach is wire. Might not be very exciting, but copper always grabs my attention ahead of the little bottle, which is plain glass, screw top, and a bit broken, so not something I want. But already this beach is more promising than the previous one, a much higher density of things to find. That's unusual. I guess maybe it was designed for separating something, like the skin off gravy or the whites from eggs. Oh, now that is something. Not at all sure it would have been a tasteful thing in its intact state, but I like it now. And there's a little bit of wire. And a stream crossing the pebble beach. Now, are all these broken bits and pieces coming from there? Not seeing a whole heap of old bottles anywhere. Not that I'm seeing much, but the Himalayan balsams, the flowers of which are quite tasty, once you've made sure there aren't any bees inside of them. Scissors look to be in good condition too, considering, and I can always use an extra pair of scissors to be in probably difficult to find when I need them. And there is a big chunk of polystyrene. One day I hope to get a waterproof metal detector, one good enough for in the water and on little beaches like this. I'm sure there's stuff to find below the surface. There's certainly lots to find on the surface, which is oldish but recently washed down, and new things like wire and trash. but this river has been washing down and perhaps burying things beneath sand and pebbles for a long time. An island beach, which side should I go? The fast-flowing riffled side, or the slower, deeper side? Both, of course, and the middle. Bit of teal colour. Is it spongeware or transferware? I don't know. And a bit of pipe stem, which is surprising in how nicely worn it is. I think I have to assume that it's been in the river a long time, being tumbled around. Not one of the recently dug pieces from an old dump site. Ooh. Oh no, not really all that interesting. A piston, though it is pretty huge. Is it too big even to be from a large truck? Do shout out if you see anything. Oh, I see something. Just put the bag down for a while. And chunk of glass. Not shard, not recognisably broken, just amorphous blob of clear glass. I like it. A little bit of blue glass, quite beautiful in the dappled sunlight, while it's still wet. Might make somebody a really nice piece of sea glass one day. Another piece of clay pipe, and again it's surprisingly well worn. Oh my gosh, do you see that? It's a piece of dragon skin. At least that's what I said when I first found a piece of this, and I'm pretty sure that it is from the same vessel, although finding it at least a year after the first piece is surprising. It's probably from a garden planter, but I'm resolutely going to stick with calling it dragon skin because that's no less silly than finding a carrot in the river. Not at its best, but if I move it to the bank, some small creature might enjoy it. Looks like a big brass tube. It's almost certainly not, much more likely to be plastic, but regardless, I'm going to get it. Yep, plastic. Oh well, the treasure today is the wading. First intact looking jar of today, and it's of course a viral jar, but it's in pretty good condition, and considering how rocky this river is, it can't have come far. So is this the edge of a dump site? There are a few bits and pieces, mostly wire. Oh wow, that's heavy, full of copper. And this is plastic, very well buried beneath a collapsed wall. This is not the dump site I'm looking for. Occasionally on such outings as this, you do come up against obstacles. So it's a pool much deeper than my boots, deep enough even to swim, or head back the way I've come, or an apparently impenetrable hillside covering made up of Himalayan balsam, nettles, and blackberry thorn vines. Choices, choices. Just a fraction away from ripe. I am scratched, I am stung, I have expended precious resources of energy, but I have gotten through the vegetation. Maybe I should have swum instead. Two-part bridge, first constructed to hold one lane of traffic, probably horses and carts, then widened to hold two. Probably still horses and carts, judging by how old it looks. Could be mistaken, but it looks older than 1920s when cars became more common here. This is perhaps a good example of what happens when wire is left in the river too long. All the plastic has been stripped off it and is in nature where it can cause harm. One end will have been firmly buried while the rest was pummeled with stones that broke up the plastic. I will get it out, and whatever plastic remains might take 2 hands. Yep. Yes, okay, I'll take this. This beach, I think, just from faint clues so far, I think another mudlarker comes here. There's little scrapings in the surface, but don't look like the work of dogs. I'm not certain yet. Ooh, if this is a mudlarker's mudlarking spot, they missed this. Or didn't miss it and didn't want it, because it really is in poor condition. But it's so long since I've found one. A game piece from the game variously known as Five Stones, Chuckstones, Dibs, Dabs, Allygobs, Tally, and Knucklebones. One of the oldest games in the world, supposedly taught by a general to his men at the siege of Troy. And there is the proof. Definitely a mudlarker's spot, and I think I know who. The things that have been left are the things that I would leave too. Wow, quite a range, including some 17th century slipware, and a little bit of brass, part of an oil lamp. Onwards. Surprisingly, there doesn't seem to be any sign at all that the mudlarker went this way. A dog did, but not a boot, or even a shoe print, or a scuff on the stone. So unless they were wading, I might be heading into fresh territory. I have found the source of the pottery pieces and glass and bottles, and it's a damp, dark, very overgrown place, which means that my aging camera is going to struggle from now on. Anyway, nice old Victorian gas tap from when houses were lit by gas lamps, and some old bottles and jars which look early to mid 20th century to me. They're spilling down into the river from bottle digger spoil piles up there. Of course, the heavier things are going to slowly work their way to the bottom of the site, so brass looks rather like a colour-gas canister to me. Beautiful colour. I will try to keep that intact and perhaps use it in a project. I'll also keep a lookout for lead. A.S.M.R wave set, a 1950s hairstyling product for that wavy and tight curl look. And headlight? Ooh, no, not quite. Well, it's from the Ford Motor Company, but anyone recognise it further? And am I making a mistake by leaving it? It's not really my taste, and I don't have the expertise to restore it. 4-ounce Bovril, a common find. And 1-ounce Marmite, a cute find. That's my way up, and it looks like there'll be finds all the way up, so let's start at the bottom. Brass. Something. Typical. Hope none of the finds in there have broken. Oh, well, this thing looks a bit like an oil tank, a bit like a boiler. I hope it might be clearer what it is when it's cleaned up. There's always some milk glass wherever I go, and this piece is kinda cute, and it's not Pond's cream, which makes it a bit rarer and more interesting to my collection. Sweet little, slightly poisonous poison bottle. Not quite a full-strength warning, just a panel of ridges. I like it, and I'll take it. And this, glorious verdigris colours and rust staining. I think it was probably a brass, baby's bath, maybe? Hard to tell with it all squashed up, but I aim to take this if I can carry everything. Another poisons bottle. It's one I found before, and I think I'm at the stage where I can leave such things for the next mudlark to come along and not feel too bad. I don't wish to become a hoarder with 20 examples of every bottle. And a brass button. The soil here is not kind to brass, so the chances of reading any writing, if it was any, is slim. Vulcanite stopper. Let's see if it's a pretty one. Oh wow, really? Yes, there it is. New Delight, which is a drinking establishment in the hills that's been the end point of many pleasant walks up the river. The exposed part of the dump seems to be a narrow band, with a plateau up there that could conceivably be sitting on a fair-sized dump site, or it could have been just things thrown down the hillside from the edge of the plateau. Modern sweet wrapper, which I'll take because, although this is a dump site, light plastic like this is liable to be swept away, either by wind or water, and end up in the rivers and eventually in the wildlife. Just as I suspected, a jar. A bit of lead-shielded wire, which can be recycled, and if left it does stand a chance of getting into the river. Oh my gosh, see that? It's been so long since I found a little green poison bottle. I see the spoon too, but green poison bottle. Such a beautiful emerald colour. A nice little not to be taken. I am taking it. Let's go down in the hole, and let's see what the bottle diggers have left for me to find. I can understand why they might reject this poor little plastic-coated, plaster-filled elephant, but I want to sculpt 4 elephants one day standing on the back of a giant space turtle, and I'll take all the 3D reference things I find. Blue milk glass. I don't see that very often. I'll take it. Is that a ginger beer bottle? Oh, no. That is... not exactly sure. Did batteries ever look like this? Oh, lead toy. Missing the usual parts, the head and feet, but he's still got his gun, and he kind of looks like he's dressed like a cowboy. I don't find cobalt blue bottles too often, and I do love the colour, so even though it's plain and a screw top, I'll take it. And I see some brass poking out. It's nothing exciting to anyone who's not into smelting and sculpting, but to me it's much more than just a jar lid. It's anything I have the skill and imagination to make from it. Not seeing much on this pile. Let's see if there's anything in the hole. No, nothing. And it looks fresh. But the pile out here looks like it's got a year or more's worth of moss growth on it, so maybe just nothing grows easily in the soil down in the hole. Onwards to the next spoil heap. Down past this, which I think might actually be marble, the surface has been eaten away, so either the soil or the rain or both here is acidic. Remember, you're welcome to shout out if you see anything good. That might be something I'm interested in. It's not exactly pretty, but it would cover a lot of space in a craft project, and I shall think about it. That is a large quantity of bottles. Are there any with qualities that I might like? That is the question. Little headless figurine of someone in traditional Japanese costume, playing a traditional 3-stringed shamisen, which isn't traditionally played standing up. Piece of a doll head. Oh, not much of one, but not a bad find. I might send this to Kitten Caboodlers one day, in a big package of doll and figurine parts for them to craft with. Looks something like a telephone relay box, and it would be an awful lot of work to dismantle it for not a whole lot of copper. Vinos, lightning cough cure. I kinda like that. In case anyone gets upset because they think I'm taking other people's finds and they'll be back for it, that's not how bottle diggers work. They lay out all the intact bottles they find and then take the few of them that they actually want. Some bottle diggers then fill in the holes again and still leave the bottles out in a row, because that shows others that the spot has been dug. Shame it's broken at the top, and honestly I don't think I could do much with it. An attempt to cut it down would be tricky, with the neck being so narrow and the glass being quite thin. a few poisons, but I have some nice examples of these already. Down near the bottom of the spoil pile is where I'd expect to find the heavy things, like the brass finial off a bed post, and copper wire. And bottles, which are down here more because of their propensity to roll rather than their weight, but my goodness, there are a lot of them, waiting for gravity or floodwaters to take them on their next big adventure. Ones like this are very appealing to me. They look good with LED lights inside, but space has become a big issue for me, so the bottles I allow myself to take are few. Bit of decoration on this little teaspoon, might be fun to clean it up. And I see a picture. That's quite nice, a donkey or a pack horse, sadly missing its head, but as any mudlarker knows, that's very much to be expected. So close to the river and so steep, it's no wonder there's so many shards to find downstream. Nice little milk of magnesia bottle. I don't mind that it's screw top, not when it's such a beautiful colour and pretty good condition. Looks like a started but soon abandoned bottle digger hole down there, which probably means there wasn't anything good. I'm not sure of the full scale of this site, but there's still a few bottles dotted around amongst the vegetation, and I'll go just a little further than they do. Pressed glass lid. Looks like depression glass to me, in an amber colour, which is probably the most common colour, so its value is that I might be able to do something with it in a craft project. I have no idea what yet, but I think I'll take it and think of what to do with it later. This dump site is turning out to be quite substantial. I might have to come back. Another fairly large bottle digger hole, and I'm just going to wander through it for now. I will look through it more thoroughly, and I can already see a few things that I like the looks of, like the brass posser and the Victorian foot warmer. The brass I will take, the foot warmer, I have one, do I need another? I don't think so. Bleach. Nice bottle. But in fact there are quite a lot of nice bottles here, and I am increasingly aware that I have a long way to walk back to the car, carrying many things. Brass thing. Too chunky for a cord pull light switch end, too small and wrongly formed for a spinning top. Any ideas, anyone? Compo. I'm sure it's a different spelling than the character in Last Ever Summer Wine, which I have vaguely fond memories of. Not particularly inclined to rewatch it anytime soon, but it was a feature of my week when I was a child, and is now a non-objectionable linking memory to memories of less troublesome times. Little amber glass pot. You never know when one of these might come in handy. Ooh, that's distinctive. A vintage Coke bottle. I'm not sure what vintage. I know the American ones have a date code on the side, and some elsewhere have the code on the bottom. There are some numbers there, which could of course just be the bottle pattern code and nothing to do with the date. I don't know, but I shall take it and try to find out. I kinda want to get back in the river before I leave, wash the ash and soil off. I know this shape. It's familiar in milk glass, not in amber glass. I like it. And a cute tiny bottle. I do love finding bottles this small. I do have a growing appreciation for the infrastructure things of long ago. I'm kinda assuming this was part of a telegram or early telephone system to keep elevated wires separate and safe. And even in something that would be largely ignored, there was design and embellishment. I don't think it's something I have a use for, and it's too heavy for today anyway. This electrical insulator would make a great little Dalek, if only I could separate it from the big lump of rust. Sadly, don't think that's likely today, and it's heavy, so maybe next time. This, of course, gets carried out of here, a washing posser or agitator for washing clothes by hand. Lovely colours of copper carbonate verdigris. Might not get melted down if I find a use for brass sheet this thin. This must have been a really tough dig with all these big things. I'm sure I'm going to miss things hiding down beneath them all, but the afternoon light will soon start giving way to dusk, and I'm happy taking 2 bags worth this time and maybe coming back for a few more next time. This I will take now. I do like big jars like this, simple in design and still useful. I don't relish the idea of trying to clean this one though. Nah. Gibson Dixon of Halifax. I do not know where to begin with a guess for this thing. I'm not sure if it's to do with electricity, or water, or air. Almost looks like the design is emulating brass musical instruments. Anyone have any ideas? A mystery that shall remain here, today at least. Distinctive bottle shape of Gordon's gin made an appearance in Let's Go with the Johnsons' recent Mudlarking video, and then again in their Saturday night live stream, which is great fun that I try to be there for each week, 9 PM UK time. Oh, that's a very fine coat hook. Some nice decoration on the bracket, a bit bent, which is probably why it was thrown out, can probably be repaired, maybe even restored. Intact cup with a flower pattern, that's a maybe. This thing, brass thing, might be a clock. Yes, I think that's exactly what it was. Don't think it will be a clock again, but depends on how well it cleans up. Might it be interesting to dig this entire spoil heap back into the hole it came from, sifting it as I go and pulling out every little thing of interest? Oh wow, never found a vintage pill bottle with the pills still in it before. I'm amazed they haven't dissolved. Wonder what they're made of. I don't think I'm going to take them home though. Antique drugs aren't something I particularly want to take responsibility for. Little corroded brass buttons on the other hand, and a little elephant figurine, plastic filled with plaster, the baby to the bigger one I found earlier. Both have injuries, which is a little sad, but I'll take it. Oh, I recognise this. Of course not this exact one, but this pattern, this colour, this model of teapot from the Essex home of one set of grandparents. I'm guessing cousins have that one now, if it survived the 30 years since I've seen it. Coil of copper, and bit of wire. I must admit the thought of sieving my way through this entire pile, although daunting, is growing on me. There must be so many little things that the bottle diggers didn't even see. Almost out of light and energy, but just spotted this cutest, tiniest little amber pill bottle, and its slightly bigger brother, which is better colour and condition, and so it gets to come too. Last find for today is brass, I think. Very light, so hollow, and has a hinge, so it's a locket or a pillbox. I hope it's a locket, because imagine what could be inside. Roundup time. And at the start of this roundup, I'd like to give a shout out for two quite new Mudlarking YouTube channels that I think a lot of you who are watching this far into my video will enjoy. The first is Scottish Mudlarking, a husband and wife mudlarking and crafting duo filming on the east coast of Scotland, and the second, even newer channel is Mud Pies, a father and daughter duo mudlarking and bottle digging near Brighton. I've put links to both of their channels in the description, and I hope a fair few of you will fancy taking a look at their videos, which so far I've enjoyed very much. Now, wow. What a sight. I think I got most of the surface finds that I actually really wanted on that visit. I spotted a few things during the edit that I missed, but not much. I've already shared the location with local mudlark Amanda Bell, who also had a great time there. So there's less there now, it's less exciting, but there will still be things to find for another visit at least, and perhaps several. Do you think it could be a good video if I, and perhaps anyone crazy enough to join me, when the pandemic is done of course, reverse bottle dig a hole, fill it in again with the spoil pile, and try to find anything and everything that's been missed? Most of what I found was on the surface of spoil piles, revealed by rain washing the soil down, so I imagine there's actually a fair amount to find further down. And now the finds. Most of the pottery sherds were in the river, and they cleaned up nicely so they go into the box ready for craft work. I think the teapot will make a nice strawberry planter for one plant in the garden next year if I drill a few holes in the bottom. The piece of a doll face will probably go into a box ready to send to Mudlarking with kit and caboodlers when a visit to the post office is safe again. They are far more proactive in making use of such things than I am. I found a lot more bottle stoppers than this, but they were in the necks of bottles that I didn't want, and I thought I'd leave them for someone who might want the bottles too. It was surprising finding the square copper nail, only my second one so far, so it's still a bit exciting. It probably was once part of a mill, or the work being done there, and so it's got a lot of history. Not nice history. Those mills had terrible working conditions, but it's a piece of the history of a place where I live, and I'm glad to have found it. Glad too to have found the scissors, which are still fully functional, and I'm sure these will make themselves scarce whenever I need them, just like all the other pairs in the house. Glad again to find the little game piece, because it's been so long since I found one. They used to be fairly common finds for me, but the beach I found them on changed shape and the water no longer dropped them there, or had no more of them to drop. I don't have much space for bottles in the house I'm currently living in, but there were so many there that I liked, and some of these are gorgeous, like that blue one, and even the green poison and amber pot, both with chips and cracks, are beautiful, perhaps even more so with their faults. The verdigris colours of brass and copper exposed to the elements will probably always draw my attention, even when there's so much of it in a site that I actually had to leave some. That big sheet of brass plating at the beginning was too much to carry with everything else. I hope it's still there when I go back. Amanda didn't spot it on her trip there, so maybe someone else has it. I hope they do good things with it, if so. There are a few interesting bits in what I did bring home. The coat hook I may well try to restore. This boiler thing is unlike any I've seen before. It actually has a cork there, which I assume is a rudimentary pressure valve. Does anyone know what it was for? Any information about it would be great. There was a few minutes of a dump site where I accidentally had my camera set to time-lapse, during which I found this other washing posser and this spoon. The last one of these I found had a lot of engraved numbers and letters on both sides of the handle, and a very helpful viewer identified it as a fiddleback, a design of spoon that was the standard British Army issue spoon between 1894 and 1917. It might actually be possible to track down the name of the soldier, or soldiers, who were issued with that particular spoon. This one has the barest hint that beneath the verdigris there are numbers too. This little thing had a machined pattern on the lid, barely visible now, and although it was probably a pill bottle, I'd prefer to believe it was something more sentimental like a locket, containing a personal keepsake. The question I haven't resolved yet is, do I open it? That would inevitably damage and perhaps destroy it. What's left is fragile. Or do I keep it as is and try to believe there is something once treasured inside? That's about it for the finds. Now comes the thank yous. In the time since the last video, people have bought me more things from my Amazon wishlist, which is very kind and very much appreciated. Robin Braddock, please correct me if I mispronounced your name, kindly got me this grabby stick, which I hope to make use of, pulling interesting looking things out of water deeper than I wish to go. My boots do get full of water far more often than I intend, and this might help lessen those occasions. Robin is a fantastic supporter of several mudlarking channels, and from the bottom of my heart, Robin, thank you for all your kindness. Alison Webster kindly bought me this hammer, which I'm going to use for hitting things, but in a nuanced way, more in the creative process than the destructive, and it is a really good hammer. Thank you, Alison. It's going to be very useful. Clifton Walker was very generous to buy me this, which is a multi-angle tripod of sorts, which will be incredibly useful when I'm trying to film my craft projects. Thank you, Clifton. Not featured here because they either haven't arrived yet or haven't quite cleared my strict quarantine procedure for mail are a few other items that people have kindly sent me. They'll make an appearance at the end of the next video. I'm not sure I'll wait that long before making use of one of them though. Thank you so much to the people, I don't know who you are yet, who sent them to me. And finally, a big thank you to all the people who've kindly gifted money through Ko-fi, which really is incredibly helpful in keeping this channel going and growing, and for helping my craft channel move towards becoming a reality. I do hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have liked it, then please give it a like. Further options are a comment, a share, subscribe, hit the bell icon to get notifications, and the further options are, and only if you want to, gifts of a hypothetical price of one or more coffees through Ko-fi, link in the description, or something off my Amazon wishlist, which is ingredients for the many varied videos I'd like to make. Thank you all very much for watching, and for now, goodbye.